Well, I was thinking about some good stories to share. I think maybe this is a time for good stories. Things that kind of warm your heart, things that kind of get your good old heart blood pumping and cause your remembrances to be stirred and kind of make you think about turning off the lights and turning on Christmas lights and putting out the nativity set and letting the aura of Jesus' birth enter into the season. I know we're not to Thanksgiving yet, but I think if there ever was a year Christmas needs to be allowed to come, let's let it be this one. For us in this time at least. I read this, but I'm going to kind of paraphrase it. We want to go back to the time in probably 1920, 1930, when a gift of any kind was a very, very special thing. And in the hills of Kentucky, there was a young 15-year-old boy. And he was dreaming, literally waking up dreaming of having his own shotgun so that he could go squirrel hunting and do the things a Kentucky young man did in that day, and some still do. He wanted a gun. He realized times were hard. He realized they had very little money and that people who had owed his father for the logging business and sawmill business had not been paying very well because times were hard. And as Christmas approached, he had worked very, very hard. He would take the extra slabs and the logs that were not good for making lumber, and part of his job was to take these pieces of longer or bigger wood and to cut it into the right size to go into stoves to be burnt to keep people warm, which that and the rare offering of coal was how they kept warm. And he had worked very hard. He had just about every place you could cut wood full of wood. He was determined to show his mom and dad that he was worthy of this gun. And as it grew closer to Christmas Eve, he noticed that his father hadn't really given any indication, his mother hadn't given any indication, nothing that he was going to get the gun. Christmas Eve came, and his father had gone to town, so his hopes were up. But when evening came and the work was all done, they had their supper. And right after supper, Dad said, "Get your coat and your boots and dress up good and warm. We've got a job to do." And being a 15-year-old boy, he wasn't especially wanting to go out in the night and do extra work. But he went, knowing that his father would not allow a bad attitude or a haughty spirit. His father pulled the horse and the sled up close to the stacks of wood, and he said, "Help me put a couple of these stacks in the sled. As a matter of fact, we need to put the other standards and the side rails on. We better take a pretty good load of wood." The widow down the road with those house full of kids, I noticed the kids were picking up just little sticks trying to find things to burn today. And I think we better take them some wood. They rode, after loading the wood, they rode to the widow's house. And they knocked on the door and went in and found the widow wrapped in a blanket and found the kids huddled together in a blanket around the stove, and understood how bad the wood was needed. His heart was kind of melted, and he hurriedly went to get some wood and without even being told, built up the fire and soon had their home warm. And the kids had let off the blankets off their shoulders and were playing, and his heart was as warm as the robe, understanding that he had helped the widow lady and the kids to be warm. And then his father went back out to the sled and came in with a bag. And in that bag, he had shoes. He had stopped by earlier and asked the widow lady to just cut a stick the size of the children's feet, because he had noticed they too were just wrapping their feet in gunny sack material or anything they had, trying to stay warm enough to go out to do their errands. And surely enough, the shoes fit the children. After the evening of the shoes and the wood, the family were elated. But his dad still had some candy to leave with the family. On the way home, he couldn't stop thinking about how it felt inside to help somebody that needed it that bad. It really touched him. Really, really, really touched him. When he got home and they went in, he realized he hadn't thought about the gun for a while, but nothing was said about the gun. And his dad and mom kind of pulled up a chair and said to him, "We were going to get your gun. A man came and paid for some wood that he hadn't been able to pay for, and we were getting ready to get your gun. And on the way to the store, I saw the widow woman and the children were in such dire straits. And I'm sorry, son, we spent the gun money on the widow and the children." And the young man would tell you, even as an old man, he would tell you, he could never chop wood. He could never stack wood. He could never get a pair of shoes without thinking what a great gift he was part of. His father had given him the gift of what it meant to give instead of receive. He understood that he could still take his dad's gun and go hunting. He understood that they would make more money and he would get a gun eventually. But he also knew that woman and the children were hungry and cold and had no way for the children to walk about on cold earth. He never forgot the lesson of what it was to truly give, expecting nothing in return. Faith, hope, charity. The greatest of these is charity. Love, expecting nothing in return.